Greetings friends and welcome to the Stretch Punch Ability Guide. If you're a fan of Luffy from One Piece, Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, or Elastigirl from The Incredibles, then this is the video for you. Get ready for the elastic stretchy punch. Whoop whoop. Hey friends, so we're going to do the stretchy punch like a frame by frame animation. So the first thing we're going to do is create our stretchy punch at its maximum extension. So we're going to go modes, sculpt mode, we're going to go cylinder, then we're going to go guides, grid snap. We'll position it like this. We can make it a little bit smaller because the arm's not going to be too thick. L1 in square, and we're going to make it pretty long. So this is going to be our sort of super long arm. You can change the size of it as you wish. Okay, sweet. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to this arm and we're going to put a little sphere at the back of it so that it kind of looks a bit like a shoulder. We can do it. You might want to change the size of the grid snap with L1 and down on the D-pad so that you can sort of get it to line up quite nicely and look quite smooth. That looks cool. And then on the other end of this arm, friends, we're going to put a big sort of fist. You can use a square or a circle or whatever suits your sort of vibe. And then we're going to do a little bit of a thumb sticking out as well. That's good enough, I think, for now. Oh, maybe not good enough. There we go. A little bit of a silly looking fist, but a fist nonetheless. Okay, sweet friends. So this is what our arm is going to look like. This is going to be the maximum extension of the arm. Now, while we've got our grid snap on, we can put it on 1. We're going to make a copy of this, friends, and we're going to place it over here. But this one is going to be slightly shorter. Now, this is what I demonstrate by sort of frame by frame animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go tools and then stretch, and then we might want to actually move this little sphere. Then we're going to go stretch, and we're going to reduce the length of this. We can make it like this long, for example. Then we're going to move the sphere so that it's back in the position, that it looks kind of like a shoulder. Change the size of your grid snap if it's not playing along. Okay, sweet. Now, you're looking at me, friends, and you're probably confused. But let me demonstrate what this will look like. I'm going to increase the size of the grid snap. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm creating like an arm of different lengths, and it's going to go all the way down. So we're going to have a long arm that sort of extends. Each of these will be visible, only one of them will be visible at a time, and it will give the illusion of it stretching out and coming back. Okay, sweet. So now, just like this one, we're going to copy it. We're going to scope into it. We're going to move the sphere. We're going to go into stretch. It's useful to use the grid for this part, friends. We're going to go like this, reduce the size of it so that we can line it up nicely, and so on, friends. So just make sure that these line up nicely at the end. Okay, sweet. But yeah, friends, so now I'm just going to continue in this way. Make sure your grid snap is on so that you can line them up nicely. Okay, sweet friends, so you just carry on just like this. Okay friends, so now I've got a bunch of arms of different lengths from really short to really long, and we are going to go into all of these. We're going to press L1 and square and make sure that they are not movable, so that's grayed out by default, so that's perfect. We're going to make them not collidable, and that is it for now. Then we're going to make them a group, friends. And we're going to make it so that you can turn off the grid snap if it's a little bit too rigid. We're going to make it so that it is part of your sort of torso, the upper torso group. You can arrange it sort of so that it looks kind of like a shoulder, that sort of a thing. It might look a little bit crazy, but I think it's alright for now. Okay, sweet friends. Now what we're going to do is, if we look here, it looks kind of stupid. But don't worry, for now, that's just perfect. We're going to now go into the group of these arms with L1 and X. Then we're going to press L1 and square and make it so that they are invisible. Make sure that you've got your preview invisibility turned off so that you can actually still see them. Then friends, what we're going to do is we're going to put down a few keyframes. We're going to go into Animate, Keyframe, make the longest one visible. Put down another keyframe, make this one visible, the next one along, the one that's slightly shorter, the next one, and so on and so forth. So friends, basically what we're doing is something like frame by frame animation. We've got a bunch of sort of frames that are, which is the kind of the arm at its different lengths, and only one of them will be visible at a time, and as such it will give the illusion of forward movement. Okay, sweet. Now we can select these keyframes with R2. Now L1 in circle. We'll press it a few times so that we can sort of get out of the whole group. Then we're going to go into our puppet, go into the puppet logic, L1 and square again. We'll get these particular keyframes that we were after, and we'll put them down over here. Then we're going to get ourselves a timeline. Inside this timeline, the first thing we're going to do is actually create our little punch animation. So we're going to go show and hide, preview invisibility, and turn that on so that it's ticked. Then we're going to create a little bit of a punch animation. Put a keyframe down here. That's cool. Then we're going to do a bit of like a swing back with the arm. So scope in, do a bit of a swing back with the arm. So here's our puppet preparing for their stretchy punch. Doesn't need to be anything too crazy, just to sort of demonstrate. So here we have them. They'll go back a little bit more. So they're going Ooooh, and then they will unleash their punch. And what's going to happen is the arm is going to go forward like this, and so are they. The torso will twist a bit. You want it so that the stretchy punch is sort of facing forward when they do their punch. And finally, it will be here. And we'll just arrange it like so. And this is where their stretchy punch will be. You can sort of rotate the torso or whatever your arm is connected to so that it lines up with what you'd like to do. Okay, sweet. Then we'll connect these here all with blends. Then we're going to make this keyframe pretty long. And this is going to be, they're going to do the punch. Whoa, yeah. Alrighty. Then we're going to put down another keyframe over here. And this keyframe is going to make the original arm invisible. Just so that you don't have your stretchy arm and your normal arm showing at the same time. You can change the color of this keyframe so that you know that it does something different. And I think we'll call it invisible or invis arm. And it's going to last for as long as the punch lasts. So make sure that these align with each other. Very nice. Okay, sweet. And now we're going to do the actual frame by frame bit. Actually, let's do a keyframe over here. And this is going to be us returning to our normal position. So if we play, I do the punch, the arm disappears, and then it comes back. Okay, sweet friends. So it's a little bit slow if I look here. Yeah, so we can make it a teeny bit faster. We'll just move everything sort of along like that. Move these along like that. Just so that the time between sort of decreases. Yeah. Okay, cool. Next up, we're going to use our little keyframes that we've got over here. So this one will make the longest one visible. But we're going to start with the shortest one. So we're going to put this one over here. And now we're going to go L1 and right on the D-pad. And friends, we're literally going to go to the point where you can see like the individual frames. So you see where it's kind of like a lighter blue and then a slightly darker blue. It's kind of a little bit hard to see. Maybe if we're here, it's kind of easier, but yeah. Then we're going to take each of these keyframes and put them next to each other. And essentially, okay, cool. Essentially, what's going to happen is this movement here is going to give this placement of these various keyframes is going to give the illusion of movement. Okay, cool. This one over here, which is our maximum extension punch, you can actually make that one a little bit longer. You can't make these ones longer. If you make them longer than a frame, then it looks kind of janky. So it'll sort of be like, instead of a smooth motion, it'll be like dit 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 dit, and it's, you know, it's not a vibe. But this one you can leave long for a little bit. That's fine. And then we're going to do the reverse. We're going to put the second longest, the third longest, the fourth longest, the second shortest, and the shortest. Make sure that these line up perfectly, friends. Make sure that they line up perfectly. And now, if we've got our preview invisibility on, which we do, we can have a look-see. And we're going to go do-do-do-do. So it kind of looks like a little bit of a, what do you call it? Jack in the box. Whoop. Sort of a vibe. You can adjust the length of these keyframes accordingly. If you want this, friends, to be slower, or if you want it to last longer, this sort of animation, then just like with frame-by-frame animation, what you have to do is create more frames. And each frame is basically a different arm of a slightly different length. So you could create this with just 3 keyframes, but it would look very quick. You could create it with like 20 keyframes, and it would be slower, but it would be a lot smoother. It's really up to you and how smooth you want your sort of stretchy punch to be, friends. But this is something we have at the moment. I think something else we'll add just for the spirit and the fun is to add a force applier when the maximum extension punch is out, and we'll just make it last for as long as that maximum extension punch is there. We're going to go strength 100%. I think we'll do a kind of cylinder. We'll change it over here. We'll make it kind of smaller just so that it's kind of the length of the fist itself, or the arm rather. The arm itself. You'll want to click on the main keyframe where this arm is and sort of align it along there. So we click there and we click here. So you click here, which is the animation, which is the position they'll be in, and you click here, which is the sort of visibility, so you can see where it is. And then we're going to go and see this like that. See the position of this force applier so that we can line it up with where the arm actually is. Alrighty. This is a bit of a tricky one, friends, but this is the best way to do it that I am aware of. Okay, and then we can make this a little bit shorter or longer, whatever we like. Okay, sweet. So now we're going to do our punch. Hiya! And it comes back and we have a good time. Something you might also want to do, friends, is here, when we've got the maximum extension punch, you could go here, you could go to the sculpture and make it collidable. So now it'll actually hit into stuff when it's at this particular length. You want them to be not collidable normally, because these arms are still sticking around, so you could like be walking and your arm will sort of collide with something. It's a bit of a crazy system, but I find that it actually works. It's the sort of smoothest one that I've managed to figure out. Okay, sweet. So the last thing that you're going to want to do is put in a keyframe that prevents you from moving. So put down a keyframe there, L1 in circle to scope out, L1 in square on your puppet. Go to physical properties, movable, turn that off. And you're just going to make it last for the entire keyframe, or the entire timeline, sorry. Okay, cool. We can rename this Stretchy Punch. Helps if I spell it correctly. Stretchy Punch. Okay, sweet, friends. So that's looking pretty good. Alrighty, so the next thing we're going to do is try it out. So that looks pretty cool. I didn't actually connect it to a button, which will always help. I think I'll connect it to square. So I'm going into the remote control sensor, square button, connect it to this. I'll put it on playback mode set to once. Alrighty. Now when I press square, yeah, we've got a nice stretchy punch going on over there. If we want to demonstrate the power of the stretchy punch, that's cool. We'll go and get ourselves maybe a rounded cube, put on a grid snap, and just put a few of these down for the sake of it. We'll make them movable. Okay, cool. We can do them like that. Then we can create a little bit of a stack. I apologize to all the cubes, for cubes have been harmed in the making of this video. Okay. Okay, sweet. So we went a little bit crazy. Whoop. A little bit of collision there. But let's try this again. So there we are, friends. We have a nice sort of stretchy punch. If you find that your character is doing sort of an annoying steppy step while they're sort of doing their punch, that's because we made them immovable. And basically their procedural walking animation is messing with them. So we'll go O1 in square, we'll go behavior, and we'll turn procedural animation off, procedural walk off. And then we should be golden. Yeah. So there we are, friends. We now have our stretchy punch. Woohoo! So it's not exactly a sort of physics-based, it's not exactly a physics-based elasticity. It is kind of a bit of a workaround. I haven't been able to figure out, I don't think there's any way that you could actually make kind of like a stretch using the game's physics, or using a keyframe, like making something just longer. You can make stuff bigger, absolutely, like you could have one arm and just make it bigger. But for example, you can make a cylinder like this, and you can, as we did, you know, stretch it. But there's no way to actually stretch it with a keyframe. Look, if we put a keyframe down here, and we go into, we don't have any of the sculpt tool modes. If we go into this, we can't actually, there's no way to actually increase the, we can't stretch it here either, for example. There's no way to actually do a stretch with a keyframe. So friends, this is basically the way that I've figured out how to do it, using sort of frame by frame. You can create actually crazy animations like this. It just often requires a lot of frames, so it's a bit of a more painstaking process. It doesn't use the sort of procedural animation that you get in Dreams, where you'll kind of put an arm here and then an arm there, and the sort of engine will fill in the in-between motion. But yes, friends, this is the best version that I've got to work, and I hope you found it useful. Woohoo! Goosh. I hope you can make your Luffy, One Piece characters, your Mr. Fantastics, your Elastigirls, and, you know, whoever else. Whoa! Doing a crazy punch there. Yes, friends, as a final sort of bug fix, if you find that your character is sort of going crazy and doing all that sort of stuff, that's basically them colliding with objects, so you can basically just go to this keyframe and make it so that it doesn't add collision, and then you should be good, and you just rely on the force applier itself, and it should actually work just as well. So there you are. That works just as perfectly, and you won't get any of that sort of twitchy arm business. Whoa. Okay, sweet friends, I hope you found this useful. I'll catch you in the flip-flop. Peace out.